Hello and welcome to It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. It's for business owners, leaders and high performers who know success can be both rewarding and challenging. I'm your host, Pete Rushmer, and each week I sit with brilliant people. They're people who have led, who have built, who have failed, who have recovered, grown and learned what leadership really takes behind the scenes. It's not a highlight reel conversation. We talk about decisions, doubts, pressures, purpose, resilience, and the lessons that shape us. Leadership doesn't have to be lonely with the right conversations, and that is all it takes to remind you you're not the only one carrying the weight. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to today's episode. I've just interviewed Atiq Rehman. And here are 5 key things that I learned from Atiq. The first is that people don't need perfection. They just need a bit of honesty. Atiq has this rare ability. And he says things that most people are thinking, but too few are afraid to admit out loud. Nothing was off the cards with Atiq. We spoke about grooming, racism. We talked about all sorts of different things, politics. One of the biggest lessons I learned was this vulnerability that he showed. There was just this true transparency and honesty. He even cried whilst we were speaking. It's the first time I've had someone cry on the show. And one of the biggest lessons that gives me is that vulnerability is not weakness. And in leadership, or even in life, it can be the bridge that allows other people to finally open up. He's really good at getting people to show that human side. And it's just because he goes first. He sort of leads the way. He's not perfect. He's not claiming to be perfect. And neither are you or I. But he's willing to be honest and just have an honest conversation about things to open up. And I think that's a really, really good thing to take away, because we often wait to be perfect. And he just has that confidence to be able to share what he's thinking. The second thing is pain can either harden you or it can humanize you. And I'm really guilty of this. Sometimes when I go through things with my team, the pain that other people create and the challenges that I face often harden me. But one of the things that I really admire about Atiq is that it's actually humanized him. He shares about all the struggles that people often go through. And that can then create you to be closed off from the world. He's had his fair share of challenges, but he's gone the other way, or he seems to have gone the other way. His experience has actually deepened his empathy. And he's got a huge amount of compassion and desire to actually help others. He says, that he wants to save other people. And what he means by that is make their day, make them smile, make them happy, make them laugh, do something good for them. He's not necessarily able to save their lives, but that's what he calls it, because that's the way he's humanizing his desire to help other people. It's not accidental. It's a choice that he makes, and I think it's really powerful. I think it's really, really cool. It's a big lesson for us. How easily do we find our challenges and pain actually harden the way we view the world around us, rather than actually humanize us and help us understand better and show more compassion, show more desire to help other people? I think it's a powerful reflection. The third is real impact happens when people actually just feel seen, right? So the thing that stood out for me is Atiq doesn't just speak to people. He speaks into the experiences, the human experience and the things that they have. So whether it's mental health, grief, masculinity, identity, what he does through speaking, or even religion or race, he creates space where people feel understood rather than judged. Although there was something he did say which really challenged me, and that was around how when we were talking about raise the age, and he was saying, your children are going to hold you accountable in the future about their use of social media, and why didn't you save us? That was quite a powerful moment. That was really powerful. But yeah, it's really important that we help people feel seen. That movement around raising the age is helping young people feel seen. When he goes, and it can seem almost performative, or people might think it's performative when he goes and pays for people shopping. But the reality is he's just helping other people feel seen. And as long as it makes them feel happy, as long as it makes their day he feels like he's saving their lives. And that's a really, really powerful thing. And what he shares is something really simple, like if someone hasn't got £5 to go and buy something they need and you've got a spare £5, why don't you help them? If their grass is growing, why don't you go and help cut their grass if you've got the time to do so? And then he talks about the homeless people who he just sits and chats to, because the time is the most valuable resource, where he just sits and spends time with people. They have food, that he can get money for them. But the reality is, it's just about spending time to help save their lives. This episode of It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast is brought to you by InSlap Mastermind and Coaching. If you're tired of trying to solve everything alone, this is your room. InSlap Mastermind brings together ambitious leaders who want to grow their business, level up their thinking, and build a like-minded community to support their growth. InSlap is strategy, it's accountability, it's growth and community, with no fluff and no BS. To find out more, connect with me, Pete Rushmer, on LinkedIn, or visit inslat.co.uk. The fourth learning was around strength doesn't always need to be loud. There's a real misconception that strength means dominance, confidence, or having all the answers. Sometimes strength is just continuing to show up with kindness, even after things have tested us repeatedly. Atiq carries that kind of strength. And what I mean by that is when he paid for someone shopping, he got a lot of hatred online. He got a lot of challenge. And I imagine, well, as he shares in the podcast, that'll have really challenged him. It'll have really made things very difficult for him. And it's one of the reasons that a lot of people won't do positive things for other people. Sometimes when I think about doing something nice for somebody, I wonder if it looks performative, or whether it looks like I'm showing that I'm better than they are, or something like that, because the intention is really positive. The intention is to help, but the last thing that you want to do is to belittle somebody or make them feel worse. And he has this confidence and strength, and it's not a loud confidence or strength. It's just something where he just doesn't really care. He just moves on, shows the strength. He helps support people, and even when he's faced with hatred and vitriol online, there he is still helping to support those around him. And I absolutely love that. And the final and most important learning was really around that unity starts just with a conversation. It's just a conversation. The thing is the world is driven by division, as Atiq says. Division is profitable for the media. It's profitable because it holds people's attention, and it's a really difficult thing to try and fight. And the reality is, he's trying to fight for unity rather than division. And it's often the outrage that gets the attention, whether it's race, whether it's bombs, whether it's terrorism, whether it's grooming, whatever it may be. And Atiq reminded me that genuine human conversation still matters. They're the conversations that I have day in, day out with my coaching clients, with my mastermind group, and with my team in my business and our clients. But making sure that we listen properly to people, understanding others' different perspectives, and having uncomfortable discussions without necessarily trying to win something, that's where trust really starts to build, I suppose. Is that it's not really about winning or losing. It's not about winning an argument. It's actually about the win is actually in the understanding, and it's in the supportiveness. As Atiq was saying, around people who unfollow him or feel like they can't follow the work that he's doing for whatever reason. He was talking about there being a march recently, and that being a bit of a challenge. Now, it can be hurtful, and it can be painful, and it can upset you if people aren't following the same thought process as you, or if they have certain judgments or prejudgments around other people. But it's really important that we focus on trying to drive unity just through conversations and developing understanding. We don't necessarily need to agree on everything. For example, Atiq is Muslim. There's lots of other religions, and there's lots of things that actually the religions share the same principle. And there are things that he doesn't agree with, and that transcends the religion. It's about being a British citizen. And I find that it's just very interesting to think, really, all it takes is an initial conversation to be had. And sometimes we're too scared and just avoid that conversation. So I think those are the sort of key reflections, really, and hopefully you can take those lessons and leadership lessons away into your businesses and think how you can apply that into your leadership strategy. The first is people don't need perfection. They just need honesty. So that's really, really important because we often avoid that. We can choose with pain. It either hardens us or we can use it to humanize us and actually show deeper compassion, deeper desire and empathy to be able to help support other people. The third is real impact happens when people feel seen. So that's really, really important. People don't remember what we said, what we did. They remember how we make them feel. And if people feel seen, if people feel understood, that's really, really important. That's where the impact happens. The fourth is around strength, not always needing to be loud. It's just about turning up, showing kindness, showing positivity on a repeated basis. That is strength alone. It can be very difficult. And the fifth is unity just starts with a conversation. We don't have to understand. We just need to open up the conversation. We don't have to win. We don't have to be right. We could just have the conversation and just share some understanding and some empathy. And that can make a real difference and a real impact. So those are the 5 things I learned from speaking to Atiq Rehman from Unspoken. Atiq, if you're listening, thank you again for joining on the podcast. I thought it was a fascinating episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, please do go back and listen back. It was a fantastic conversation, extremely inspiring, and I really enjoyed it. Anyway, thanks for joining me on the podcast, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to today's episode of It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. I hope today's conversation has given you something really valuable, whether it's an idea, a perspective, or even a reminder of your next step. If you enjoyed this episode, please do make sure you follow and subscribe and review with 5-star feedback. I also challenge you to share it with another business owner or leader who needs to hear it. If you want to go deeper, visit inslap.co.uk to find out more about our mastermind community and coaching. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and remember, it's not so lonely at the top when you stop trying to climb alone.